Hey, it is Friday. We're back with another episode of FUD Yourself. JD Gagnon here, and today we have a different guest. Kristine, how you doing?
I'm very well. I seem different to you, but not to them this week.
Yeah, this is 2 times in a week. Holy
moly. 2 times in 1 week. I'm just going to take over the show.
She pays us $2,000 every time to come on. So, I mean, we say we don't commercialize the show, but here we are.
It's bot media, that's for sure.
Bot media. Anyways, okay, so it's FU Friday, which is exciting. Every Friday, we say FU to whoever has caused us grief throughout the week or throughout the year or years. And I can't think of too many people that are higher on the list to say FU to than SBF. So we're going to talk a little bit about the verdict from yesterday, what that means for the space. We're going to even talk about what Trump had to say about the whole thing, which is pretty exciting. So super excited to get into it today. I know Kristine's got some exciting thoughts. She said she wanted to date SBF at one time, but I guess it didn't work out. He's really a pure specimen of masculinity, I think.
I mean, I'm just in Florida, so I was just trying to get free tickets, you know?
Yeah, just wanted to go to the Bahamas for free. Anyways, we're a live show Monday to Friday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. You can tell that we're live because we say dumb shit and it doesn't get edited out, which makes it a lot more fun. We're still in Twitter jail, so we're not doing spaces. We couldn't do a single post for 10 business days. So we're not doing spaces today, but we're all over the place. YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter live video, Twitter recorded video. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and soon to be RSS feeds. All over the place. Like, share, subscribe, bookmark, bell, all that bullshit so we can help get the word out. We actually do not commercialize the show on purpose, at least currently. And that's because we're just trying to provide a service to the space. So the only commercialization that we do is merch. Today I am wearing merch, but it's cold. So today is the TBTC Magic Internet Money. So a quick shout out to Wormhole and their partners with TBTC. Is that?
Yeah, you got it.
Did I get it right?
Yeah.
Yeah, TBTC. Shout out to them. Anybody that wants their merch, shout it out on the show. Send it, size medium, and I'll wear it on the show as long as it's nice and cozy, soft. Okay, I think we should probably just freaking go instead of messing around anymore. So let's do it. All right, we're back.
I have a great comment to start off.
Let's hear it.
That if we had to spend the whole time pre-intro and then just did an intro and then ended this segment, we might have been doing everybody a service
by just saying F you, SBF.
Yeah, that should have been the whole show. Like this whole year. So like everybody's so sick of it. We could have just been like, you know what? F you. That's done.
So I've been talking about this for quite some time, that this is one of those things that's kind of been lingering over the space for the last almost exactly a year. That was almost exactly a year ago when FTX unraveled. And I'm very impressed that the conclusion of this trial was done before the 1 year mark, at the 1 year anniversary of all the issues. Often this stuff gets delayed, but I think, regulators and the government had to take a stand. This was huge. This was multiple billions of dollars. But it's kind of been this like cloud hanging over the space. All the news outlets, that's all they've been talking about is SBF and fraud and misrepresentation. And
okay, but I need to say something here because the only reason why this has been able to be so fast is because it's on chain, right? Like there's no way they could have dealt with this level of fraud and all of these things if it was just like standard.
If they had to subpoena and wait for, and then
really different. There's such a negative look on all of this, because it's DeFi and but that's the only reason why they could do this, why they could act so quickly is because it's on chain. So, it's very easy to track.
That's actually a really good point. It's a huge feather in the hat for transparency and the nature of how the technology works. It is actually, and that's a good point, Kristine. I hadn't actually thought about that. I'm going to steal it and use it because I think it's really a huge value add. It's a huge 0 to 1 innovation in blockchain relative to the antiquated traditional systems.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, oh, it's so much easier, but actually it's not. It's not easier for fraud. It's actually orders of magnitude more difficult. And as we've seen, to your point, the law enforcement and investigators, regulators have a hell of a lot easier time getting the information that they need.
Right.
Often when you have to subpoena it all, you subpoena and then people drag their feet and then they appeal and they
and like paperwork goes missing and it's fudgy and it's he said, she said, and this, it's like he can talk all he wants, but they have the information there, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get into it, and then we'll have a lot of time to, I think, opine on some of these different things. So I'll just kind of go into the first one. This is like the high level view of this whole thing. And I'm just going to read directly, I'm going to read from the article. On October 3rd, SBF, the founder of bankrupt FTX, is set to go on trial for fraud and conspiracy in the Southern District of New York. The Department of Justice filed 13 charges against him, alleging mismanagement and misappropriation of funds that led to the loss of billions of dollars worth of customer funds. The trial was supposed to last around a month, which is almost exactly what happened. Mm-hmm. And if convicted, SBF could face decades in prison. The total maximum of all charges add up to about 110 years. Now, I highly doubt he's going to get 110 years worth of jail time, but it's possible, I suppose. What else? Oh, and then it just talks a lot about how many of the other key players that include Carolyn Ellison, Sam Trabucco, Gary Wang, Nishad Singh, Changpeng Zhao, John J. Ray III, Barbara Fried, Joseph Bankman, and FTX customers. Many of them pled guilty to other challenges and to other charges, but none of them obviously are going to see jail time. So to conclude, he was facing 13 charges and he was actually found guilty on everything. Do you think, Kristine, before we move on to a little bit more detail on the charges and so on, do you think that 110 years is a fair punishment for this crime?
Yeah.
You're a judge.
I don't think that. So why I think 110 years is a fair punishment? It's not about 110 years. It's that every crime you do has a set amount of punishable years. So if you commit one crime, maybe it's 7 years. But if you commit 13 and they all have their reasonable amount, so it's not because they're like, he needs to go to jail for 110 years. It's you committed A, B, C, D, all the way, the 13 of them. And all of those have a number associated with them. So you can't look at it and say, like, is that a fair number in total? It's like, what did you do? Because there is a punishment for each one of these things.
Yeah.
Right. So yes.
I think, I struggle a little bit with this scenario because I think, and this is a rare glimpse of emotional attention to a situation for me, but, I completely and vehemently disagree with the decisions that were made. I think a lot of them were made consciously. I think a lot of them were very poor and ended up in the loss of billions of other people's money. So for that reason, the punishment should be severe, both as a deterrent to futures. There has to be a big enough stick to deter people from doing dumb shit again in the future, obviously. But the flip side, where I can kind of empathize a little bit, is he's a pretty young dude. This was his first. It doesn't excuse it. Don't get me wrong. Just because you're a young dude and this is your first venture doesn't mean that you're excused from causing catastrophic issues. But you kind of got to feel for the guy a little bit. He went from.
His parents are lawyers. They should go to jail too. They understood what was happening the whole time. This is not a stupid man. This is it's a calculated person, right? So I understand that really, really, really is terrible that you've chosen to do something so huge that it's going to affect you for the rest of your life. There, in another way, I mean, I think that there are people that probably deserve to have the 110 years who actually don't get that much time because I feel gross about what certain people do as crimes. I'm not going to get into that, but you understand where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
But do I think so what's going to happen here is what are the chances that he would get out after 20 years and decide, I'm just going to be like a good, wholesome person and go work at some regular job because that's what he's going to be allowed to do after this, right? Like, what are the chances that he would be satisfied with that level of life?
You might be surprised. Bernie Madoff, who I think the total dollar values were somewhat similar. I'm not 100% certain what Bernie made, but I think Madoff got 70 or 80 years, and he died. Like, he died in jail. I think they let him out, like, whatever it's called, like the week when he was going to die anyways. I think they let him out to deal.
What am I supposed to be surprised about on this?
Well, he didn't get let out.
No, but what I'm saying is
he didn't get paroled after 20 years. Is my point.
Okay, but what I'm saying is you feel bad because it's his whole life and he's a young guy, and you kind of can sympathize with that.
I don't feel that bad.
Right. But say they reduced it and we're like, okay, 30 years. In 30 years from now, what are the chances that he's going to be like, I learned my lesson. I'm going to work at Starbucks. It's cool. Like,
we have to have that hope that there's some reform in the criminal justice system. Otherwise, why don't we lock everybody up permanently that commits a crime? Why do we let anybody out if we think that the probability of them coming out and being a model citizen is zero?
Yeah, I guess it depends on, like,
everybody gets a firing squad.
Yeah.
You steal, firing squad. Speeding, firing squad.
Yeah.
I'm kind of obviously I'm thumbing my nose at it, but
this was
I totally get it. I don't feel that bad for him at all. Actually, I think as every Friday, today is a very solid, strong, and heartfelt fuck you to SBF.
But
because
he's gone through the actual, like, they haven't told him. It says 110 years, but we don't actually know.
That's the max. That's if he got the max for every single charge. So let's go. Let's move on with the articles, and then we'll keep talking about it. So the next one is just some formal updates from CNN, which is
my favorite.
Pardon?
My favorite.
Which is also my favorite. So essentially, to sum up what CNN has to say is, for the past year, the crypto industry has grappled with the fallout from the collapse of FTX and its founder, SBF, and their legal woes. Bankman-Fried has now been found guilty of 7 counts of fraud and conspiracy, including wire fraud, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, commodities fraud, securities fraud, and money laundering. The verdict has sent shockwaves through the crypto community, raising concerns about the industry's reputation and regulation.
This is a garbage.
Yeah, this is complete and utter bullshit, in my opinion. I mean, if anything, this is a testament to how efficient enforcement and regulation could be if we got our shit together and figured out what the rules are.
Yeah.
But again, a lot of these rules, wire fraud, all kinds of different frauds and whatever else, conspiracy to commit, blah, blah, blah. I mean, those are legitimate charges that exist and that aren't, new to crypto. They apply directly. And so this has much less to do with crypto itself. It's one bad actor that found an opportunity in an area where that's not being surveilled too closely for this to get out of hand before they noticed.
They're not like making up new laws and rules here. And why that matters is because this is not, like you said, specific to crypto. These are things that people do when it comes to money. So it doesn't matter what form the money is in. These are things that people do, always have. So to say it's sending shockwaves through the crypto industry, I mean, nobody that I know that's in it really cares. They're just like, this guy is a bad guy.
If anything, it's positive shockwaves.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's positive shockwaves in the sense that, fine, this is done. We can stop hearing about it. It doesn't make it better, but it can stop being the headline perpetually, because that does bring the space down because of headlines like this CNN one.
Well, and I think really if you dive a little bit deeper and you say, okay, for all of us who are in this little circle, right, and there's a reason we're all here in crypto and DeFi, and you take a guy like SBF who's interacting with all of these non-crypto people in a very scammy, pyramid-y, like all these government officials, all these everybody. It's exactly what we're trying to get away from. And he is like, here, let me do this. Like he is taking him down is not a bad thing for everybody in this sphere.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, there's another article, I guess we can pull it up, that talks from CNN, that talks a little bit more about like kind of the reactions from his parents, and they're really trying to tug on the heartstrings here a little bit. Obviously, his parents both broke down when he was found guilty on all the charges. Bankman-Fried, of course, was breaking down and not doing too good on the news, as you could imagine. There's not too much other exciting stuff in here other than it kind of felt like, to him, at least that's what they're claiming, that everybody just ganged up on him and blamed it on him as an easy way out. And I mean, yeah, everybody did gang up on him, but by the sounds of it, he was by far the main responsible party for most of these decisions. So I guess, you know.
So if you want my empathetic moment, it comes there. His parents were sad. I get that. Like, I have kids. If they ever did something terrible, you still love your children. You're still going to feel bad for them, right? Like, you're going to have that moment. But what does that mean?
Yeah, there's some other kind of comedy coming out of this, or people just kind of talking about some of the shenanigans or some of the stuff that really happened, especially with SBF putting himself on the stand, or them putting him on the stand. It's pretty rare that they put the accused on the stand unless there's a like super compelling reason why you would do that. And essentially, I think it was 140 times. Was it 140 times?
143? 100.
Or is it 140? He said, "I don't recall," as a response to cross-examination 140 times.
Yeah.
Like,
he's a busy guy, man. Like, he does a lot of things. He can't remember everything.
Yeah. Well,
that's why we have blockchain, though, because it'll remember for you.
Yeah. So, I mean, they were talking to him a lot about like why he was trying to get in with political figures, Tony Blair, Bill Clinton, Bahamian prime minister, of course, all of the politicians in America. And he really didn't have too many good answers for that, but he used very vague and evasive language, of course. He claims he doesn't remember making statements about their safety. Anyways, it was kind of one of those, like, I doubt that he could be this ignorant, but more or less like too many questions that he was asked. He just didn't have an answer. Why the hell would you put him on the stand? Like, I know,
but there is like a slight chance that he doesn't remember some of it. I remember very specifically watching him and being that messed up like all the time. Like, yeah. If nothing else, they got him on some sort of like irresponsibility in running a company, because I mean, you're interacting with all these people and you can't remember. Why can't you remember? Well, if you look at all the videos of how he was during
tweaking out all the time,
tweaking out all day, every day, maybe he really doesn't remember.
Yeah. He had tried to, another thing that's kind of like obviously a non-starter and looks pretty bad, is he tried to suggest in response to the questions often that it wasn't intentional. He didn't intentionally commit any crimes.
Yeah.
Well, that's not how the laws are written, obviously. Intention matters sometimes in terms of the severity of the charges, but you don't just get out of it because you didn't intend to hurt some obvious inevitable conclusion to the decisions you were making. So you didn't intend to, but a reasonable person should have had the foresight to see what was coming, is kind of the theory.
Yeah. So there's like a difference there. If you're doing everything you can in terms of security and whatever, and you get hacked, let's say, then you didn't intend for that to happen. Are you still responsible at some level? Maybe, but you've done everything in your power to make that not happen. It's different when you're like, I blew some money over here, so I pulled it from here to fill up that gap. And I didn't intend to have to do that, but it was just the choices that, I had to make it. Like, there's a difference, right?
Man, I'd hate to see you in a room with SBF. It sounds like you're just ready to murder the guy.
Oh, don't say that. I'm not ready to murder him. I'm ready for him to just I'm ready for this to be done.
Yeah. Essentially, the conclusion to all of this, the end of this article is, by the end of understanding everything that he said and all of his explanations, essentially what they've concluded is that it was a pyramid of deceit, that everybody was lying to everybody, and there's only a few people that really had the decision-making capacity, SBF being the ultimate decision maker. So here we are. That's what happens, I think, when you play with fire. Obviously, you're going to get burned. I guess there's some other articles on this pyramid of deceit that we can talk about a little bit, but I'll just read some of it here. The trial of SBF, the crypto entrepreneur behind FTX, is nearing its conclusion in the United States. This is obviously an article from right before. The prosecution has portrayed him as a mastermind of theft, deception, and greed, alleging that he stole customer funds from FTX. Bankman-Fried's defense, on the other hand, argues that the government has painted an unfair picture of their client and that he was merely making business judgments. The case hinges on whether the jury believes he orchestrated a pyramid of deceit or if his actions were not criminal. obviously the jury decided that they were criminal actions and it wasn't in fact normal business decisions that just happened to turn bad. I mean, there's a few things. I think if this wouldn't have happened as like the number one case of the last bear cycle, and it essentially being the inflection point for global regulators to be like, we got to do something about this, it probably wouldn't have been as big of a deal, I don't think. But I mean, you have to take a stand at some point, and there's no better case than somewhere between $4 and $8 billion disappearing. A good chunk of which is ours. They still owe us some money. So I'm not super impressed about the situation with FTX personally. But anyways, we're trying to just move on from it. So we will leave it at that. Now, some other things. FTT now obviously faces some scrutiny. It was weird. Like, so when FTX collapsed, the FTT token, for some reason, didn't completely die. People were still buying it, and there's still, like, it died a lot, obviously.
Well, so did everything else at the time. It wasn't like unproportional to, like, I mean,
everything was dying. But this in particular, like, over the course of 48 hours, pretty much went to zero.
Yeah.
Anyways, there was some speculation that, they were going to reboot X and the FTT token would be useful again, and this, that, and the other thing. But essentially now what they're saying is a whole bunch of people were betting on the possibility of that happening, but now that it's been tied to, so many issues inside of FTX, the token itself, and it was used for balance sheet manipulation and this, that, and the other thing. I mean, good luck. Good luck getting anybody to approve that token anywhere. So we'll have to see what happens with that.
It's not good though.
It's definitely not good. But I mean, what do you expect?
I said it's not dead.
Oh, it's not dead. Yes.
Yeah.
It's not dead. It's still there, but it's purely speculation. You watch, it'll become like the meme coin in 10 years from now. It'll be the
100%. They should it'll be
the next Doge.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
And SBF secretly becomes a billionaire again because he's got all the FTT tokens in his wallet or some nonsense. Anyways, let's hope that doesn't happen. That's kind of a joke, but I wouldn't be surprised if something crazy like that happened. Okay, so now what? What does this all mean for the space? Is this an inflection point? Do we care? Is it a turning point for crypto? I personally think yes, but I would love to hear what your thoughts are. Of course, he was convicted. I think I spilled the beans on his conviction earlier in the pod than I was supposed to. It was supposed to be some buildup, and then now we're talking about his conviction. But I mean, do you think this is a meaningful turning point?
I think that it's part of a huge thing that are all meaningful turning points. So in my mind, yeah. But like you said, it's unfortunate. It happened to some young guy who was trying to get his foot in the door. It sucks. He's going down for the rest of his life. And like you said, it might not have been a big deal, as big of a deal if it didn't have the global impact and timing that it did. But I think that it will be, because for me, it stands as a really clear case that we need some guidelines. We need some rules so that, we can participate. They let him get away with so much stuff and be involved in so much stuff because he was connected to all these powerful people. And that went down the carpet, right? It backfired on them. So now we're like, hey, we have all these people that want to do things in a legitimate way, that are trying to move forward. And we need these regulations. Whether that will come or not, I mean, slowly we're starting to see things happen anyway with like the ETFs and whatnot. But I think it's just one piece in the puzzle that we're all trying to create here. So yeah, I don't think it's the turning point. I think it's really easy to talk about on the news, and they wanted it to go one way, which was to like destroy the narrative of crypto. But it came out that that's not what happened. They're still going to put him as a bad guy, but it didn't kill what they thought it was going to by blowing it up in such a big case. And now we're going to end up kind of a little farther down the path of getting what we need. Yeah.
Another article came out from Reuters that said SBF being found guilty is very good for crypto. And mainly because the crypto community was anticipating justice. And I think I can speak to this as a member of the crypto community, that often we see like rugs and hacks and exploits and all of these other things that unfortunately just go too frequently unpunished. especially if the amounts are like not extraordinary.
They're still extraordinary, but not, yeah.
That's what I mean. Like relative to the $8 billion hole of FTX, everything is small peanuts. But I mean, even $1 million exploit or rug, I mean, $1 million theft anywhere else on earth is a massive crime.
Yeah, like if you walked into a store and stole $1 million.
yeah, like what? Like imagine you went and stole a Bugatti. Like you'd be in jail forever. Not forever, but for a long time. And so anyways, I think, this is good because the people in the space have been burned many times. And this touched a different angle. This was all the institutions in the space. This wasn't just the retail people. This was all the like large accounts, corporate accounts, whale accounts at FTX, and all of them lost money. It's so crazy, but it's nice now to see, everybody kind of rallying behind some justice here. I'll read a couple more things. I want to read a quote from our friend here. I just got to find it. There we go. Robinson, a good friend of ours from Wormhole Foundation, thinks that it will distinguish crypto from fraud. And I totally agree with that. I think often people have been conflating crypto and fraud as being one and the same. And I think what this highlights is that there is fraud. The fraud needs to be penalized and removed from the conversation. Having said that, crypto is not fraudulent. Some people, some actors in crypto will commit fraud, but crypto itself is not fraudulent. I think this went a long way to prove that a little bit, that there is punishment for the people that do bad things. So hopefully we can be a little bit more positive on the space as a whole. Any final thoughts on kind of how that's going to maybe change the narrative for us in the next little while? Do you think this is the catalyst, or is this just one more straw on the camel's back that we now are waiting for the catalyst? What do you think?
This is the catalyst for what? Are you trying to like pull me
for changing sentiment, changing momentum in the space?
Bull market right now? Like I said before,
hopefully.
I mean, I'll take it. I'm ready.
On, Kristine. Get us into a bull market single-handedly.
Yeah, I would like to claim today as the day where the shit starts to turn around. But yeah, I think, like I said before, it's another piece in the puzzle. We're going, we're moving, we're working on it. But no, I'm going to back up and say exactly what you said. Today is the fucking day. Let's go. This is it.
All right. Well, if this works out, if this is the turning point, you, my friend, will now be the new oracle of crypto. Imagine you can do a signals channel. You could charge people all that money to give them really poor trading advice.
No, that's not.
All right, we're gonna end a little bit on a fun note. Well, maybe not a fun note, but I have a little soft spot for anything that Trump says, just because it's usually hilarious or completely offside, and it usually gets people all worked up and talking about it. So Trump on the SBF trial is Donald Trump is also in New York on some standing trial for different charges, of course. But the atmosphere outside the courthouses is fairly subdued. Apparently, Trump Jr. arrives. No one really cares. Locals in New York seem pretty disinterested in both the SBF trial and the Donald Trump trial, which is kind of weird. There was a quote from Trump. What the hell did he say about this? Did you see the quote? I can't find it now.
I feel like it's no. I can go back and look. I actually didn't read this part.
Anyways, so essentially what this is trying to say is that
mafia versus mafia.
What?
Vivian, a protester, describes the situation as mafia versus mafia.
Yeah. The whole point of this was trying to say, like, there's two pretty high profile trials. If you're in the right community, then they're huge for you, right? So if you're a Trump supporter, which almost no one in New York City is, then the Trump trial is pretty important to what you're hoping for the future of the country.
I have thoughts on this.
If you're in the crypto, if you're in crypto, the outcome of the SBF trial is obviously relevant. It's pretty important. So to us, these both, well, not necessarily both of them, but in particular, the SBF trial is of great importance. But it turns out that the general public doesn't really give a shit. So hopefully, and I'll let you opine on this and have the last word, but well, hopefully, anyways, we go ahead. I don't want to steal any thunder. Go ahead.
You're not going to steal any thunder. Go for it. I want to hear it.
No, go for it. Go.
No, now I got to backtrack because I was all excited about what you were going to say and I lost what I was going to say.
Oh, great. We're quite.
Basically, I feel like, so with the first couple Trump trials, blah, 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 you know, there was all the protesters and the angry people, but it's not going their fucking way right now. Excuse my language on your nice show. But it's not going their way right now. They're not seeing the convictions and the things that they want. So they're making less noise about it so that it can, you know, like, trust me, if something does go their way, these protesters
They'll be all over it. Yeah.
They'll be all over it again. But right now it's not going their way. So we're not talking about it. The people that are in this circle with the SBF case, it's not going their way right now. And for all the people who haven't made any regulations, who haven't any blah, 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 it's not really going their way right now. Crypto didn't die. People care that this guy, this bad guy, is going to be convicted. So it's not the narrative that those people were hoping for. So they're not going to sit there and, you know, protest against something and bring attention to something that isn't on, you know, the same page as what they're hoping for. So of course we care. Of course we're going to talk about it. Of course we're going to bring it up and say, hey, this matters. You know, we're talking about it being the catalyst to help move us forward. That it's going to be huge news where it's appropriate.
Right.
And that's for the people who are trying to change this whole problem, this whole system. So yeah, that's massive. It's important.
So where I was going to go is actually just building on your point, but I really hope that we see the PR representation of this over the next week or two being accurate, because that really is what will determine the fallout from this. Does the space move forward in a positive light? Do we see people that are actually acknowledging that the right thing was done here and that the technology made it easier? Because that's what should be happening. So I think maybe this is good for us in our respective projects, Kristine. Maybe that's something we should be leaning into, is that narrative of, you know, this is an inflection point for the space. This is great. This is proof of the advantages of the technology in detecting and enforcing crimes. So I think it's, you know, in some ways it's a really interesting and exciting opportunity for the space. I just wish I was more confident in the PR's commitment.
It's not FUD Friday. It's
telling the truth.
Yeah.
No, it's FU Friday. It's the ultimate FUD. We FU to people because we're so fuddy. But anyways, I think we can probably end there. That's a lot of SBF for one day. I can't believe I couldn't find that Trump quote. I'm going to try to find it, and I'll post it on my Twitter or something if I do. We're a live show Monday to Friday, every single day. It's kind of crazy. 12:30 p.m. Eastern, all the major platforms. Like, share, subscribe. Help us get the word out, please. And today, Kristine, I say to you, go FUD yourself.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming. Later.